The frozen winds of Manchuria whipped across the snow-covered tarmac of Antung Air Base. It was late November, 1951, and the Korean War raged just beyond the Yalu River. Under the cover of secrecy, the Soviet Union had deployed its finest pilots, men hand-picked from squadrons with spotless records, to fly the new MiG-15 jet fighter. Their mission: challenge and destroy the United States Air Force's F-86 Sabres in the skies over MiG Alley, while ensuring no one learned their true identities. Captain Ivan Falcon Petrov, a tall, lean man with sharp cheekbones and steel-gray eyes, zipped his leather jacket against the cold. A veteran of the Great Patriotic War, he had carved his name into the Luftwaffe's nightmares, downing 23 enemy aircraft over the Eastern Front. Now, in this strange undeclared war, his orders were clear: engage the Americans, but never be captured alive. Ivan's wingman, Lieutenant Yuri "Bear" Makarov, a younger pilot fresh from the Soviet Air Force Academy, was eager but inexperienced. "Comrade Captain," Yuri said as they walked toward their MiGs, "these Americans, they say their sabers turn tighter. How will we?" Ivan cut him off with a faint smirk. "The MiG climbs faster. And our guns hit harder. We fight in the vertical, Yuri. Not like the dogfights you read about, up and down, always using the sun. Let them think they have the advantage, then kill them before they know what happened." At dawn, 12 MiG-15s roared into the sky, their silver fuselages catching the pale sunlight. The radio crackled with clipped Russian code words, nothing in English, nothing that could betray them. Across the Yalu River, the 4th Fighter Interceptor Wing had scrambled 8 Sabres from Kimpo Air Base. Leading them was Captain John "Hawk" Harrington, an ace with 7 kills to his name and a reputation for pushing his saber beyond safe limits. The Americans had been watching the MiG patterns for weeks. Today, Hawk intended to spring an ambush. "All right, boys," his voice came through calm but sharp, "we climb high, cut into their path, and hit them before they get to altitude. Watch their climb rate, they'll try to go vertical. We'll keep it flat." At 38,000 feet, the two formations spotted each other. A thin contrail line split the sky as the dance began. Ivan rolled his MiG and pulled into a steep climb, forcing the Sabres to follow him into thinner air. As predicted, 2 of the Americans lost speed and dropped back. But Hawk stayed with him, matching his climb inch for inch. The first shots cracked through the sky, short bursts from 37mm cannons. The shells streaked past Hawk's canopy, close enough to rattle his nerves. He yanked the stick, diving hard to force Ivan to overshoot. But Ivan didn't take the bait. He rolled again, using gravity to sling the MiG into a near-vertical dive. Below, Yuri engaged 2 Sabres, forcing one into a defensive spiral. His 23mm guns tore through the American's right wing, and the jet erupted in flames. "Bear to Falcon, 1 down." Yuri's voice was electric. "Stay sharp." Ivan snapped back. "They will come for you now." The fight became a blur of motion, climbing, diving, and rolling through the thin air over the Yalu. Hawk knew he was up against a veteran. This wasn't a green North Korean or a hastily trained Chinese pilot. Whoever was in that MiG flew like he had fought Messerschmitts over Europe. In a tight turn, Hawk's wingman, Lieutenant Frank "Tex" Miller, caught Yuri in his sights. The Sabre's .50 caliber guns chewed through the MiG's tail section, sending it spiraling downward. Yuri's last words crackled over the radio, "Falcon." "I can't." Then silence. Ivan's stomach twisted, but he pushed the grief down. There was no time to mourn. With a hard pull, he looped behind Tex and fired. The burst tore through the Sabre's engine, flames trailing as Tex ejected into the freezing sky. Now it was just Ivan and Hawk, ace against ace. They danced at the edge of the sound barrier, trading bursts of gunfire, each man reading the other's moves with razor precision. Ivan climbed into the sun, vanishing from Hawk's view. Hawk banked hard, knowing the next burst could come from above. Then it came, a blinding flash, and the hiss of tracers past his nose. Hawk rolled left and dove, skimming the cloud tops. Ivan followed, the MiG's superior climb rate now useless in the chase. Hawk's saber twisted through a series of scissors maneuvers, forcing Ivan to overshoot. For a moment, Hawk had him in his sights. His .50 calories roared, tearing through the MiG's right wingtip. Smoke poured from Ivan's jet, control sluggish. "Time to finish this," Hawk muttered. But Ivan wasn't done. Using the last of his speed, he pulled a high-G barrel roll, slipping out of Hawk's kill zone. Then he dove straight toward the Yalu, crossing into Chinese airspace where the Americans were forbidden to follow. Hawk leveled out just short of the river, watching the smoking MiG vanish into the haze. At Antung Air Base, Ivan's MiG landed hard, skidding across the icy runway. Mechanics swarmed the damaged jet, but Ivan barely noticed. He pulled off his helmet, sweat dripping down his face despite the cold. General Sokolov met him on the tarmac, eyes sharp. "Yuri?" he asked. Ivan shook his head. "He fought well. He died well." Sokolov placed a gloved hand on Ivan's shoulder. "His name will never be known to the world. Neither will yours. But the Americans will remember the day they met the Falcon." In a smoky briefing room at Kimpo Air Base, Hawk studied reconnaissance photos of the MiG wreckage they'd managed to capture after a later battle. "Whoever's flying those," Hawk said, pointing at the photos, "isn't Chinese. They fight like they've been doing this for years. Feels like Berlin, 45. The intelligence officer just smiled faintly and said nothing. A bitter winter storm broke just enough for flying. Ivan, now leading the squadron alone, took to the skies with 10 MiGs. Across the Yalu, Hawk's sabers rose to meet them. The battle that day was unlike any before. Jets weaved in and out of clouds, tracers lighting the white void. Hawk shot down 2 MiGs, but Ivan claimed 3 sabers in quick succession. At last, the two aces found themselves face to face once more. They closed head-on at nearly Mach 1, guns blazing. Both aircraft were hit, Hawk's canopy shattered, slicing his cheek. Ivan's engine began to fail. Neither broke off. At the last second, Hawk rolled under Ivan's nose, lining up a final burst. But Ivan, anticipating it, killed his throttle and yanked the stick, causing Hawk to overshoot into the kill zone. The 37mm cannon roared. Hawk's saber took the hit, flames licking the fuselage. Hawk ejected, parachuting into enemy territory. Ivan circled once, watching his adversary drift down into the snow. Over the radio, he spoke in Russian, knowing Hawk wouldn't understand. "You were worthy, American." Then he turned for home, the MiG limping but still airborne. Hawk spent 6 months in captivity before being released in a prisoner exchange. He never learned the name of the Soviet ace who had shot him down, but he carried the memory of those duels for the rest of his life. Ivan Petrov returned to the Soviet Union a decorated but unacknowledged hero. Officially, he had never set foot in Korea. But in the quiet of his apartment in Moscow, he kept a single memento from those secret battles, a fragment of saber canopy glass, still faintly smelling of jet fuel and gunpowder.